But of course, we can point to other animals which have less total genetic diversity than humans, but are said to have several subspecies, breeds, types, races, or whatever. All right, and all this shows that nowhere else is Lewontin's fallacy used. Nowhere else in biology is Lewontin's fallacy taken seriously. That's why it's called a fallacy. The continuum fallacy.
Friends, you do realize that even in primatology we disagree on some of the subspecies of different animals. For instance, depending on where you fall in the cladistic range, there could be anywhere from 2 distinct species of gorilla to as many as 2 distinct species with 6 subspecies. Now, it's not clear whether some of these can interbreed, yada yada yada. Mostly it exists just to clear things up because a lot of these animals live in different regions. Now, there's only one species of bonobo, and it's a subspecies, or actually a separate species, that evolved from the common ancestor we have with chimpanzees. But they can't interbreed, and they don't even live in the same areas. They don't even have the same social organization. Now, this fallacy you keep talking, what about the regression fallacy? The one you're guilty of constantly. And now we're going to talk about the whole IQ thing. Now, according to you and all of your hereditarian buddies, actually the racists, we're not going to call you hereditarians, you racists, all of your buddies claim that IQ tests measure legitimate intelligence. In other words, they actually take a real measure of something called G, which represents innate human intelligence. Now, the problem here is the regression fallacy. According to all of you, the correlation of these individual groups in the IQ tests demonstrate differences between the races. Now, the first problem we have here is that you're ascribing a genetic component to something you haven't isolated yet in terms of understanding what it is. In other words, you cannot demonstrate clearly that this is something solely genetic and that it isn't something environmental. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean this. Now, in the Leonard Lieberman's article on Morton and Rushton and the brain size of humans, how it's changed, we've already talked about the hierarchy, he says this: in a longitudinal study on malnutrition in Guatemala, Pollitt, 9371, used Atoll, a protein supplement for children in one village, and Fresca for controls in another. In tests of numbers, knowledge, vocabulary, and reading, the Atoll children improved 1 to 4% with a full model involving more environmental influences. 55% of the literacy improvement was accounted for, as well as 2 to 10% of the variance in information processing. A longitudinal study in Tezotihuacan, damn Aztec words, Tezotihuacan, Mexico, compared one nutritionally supplemented group of 6 and 7-year-old school children with a non-supplemented group on a series of written tests. Their teachers were unaware of which children received the supplement. The grades of the children who did not receive the supplement averaged 6.5 out of 10, with 38% failing. None of the supplemented children failed, and their average grade was 8.1. Chavez, Martinez, and Sobranes, 2,249. Why am I bringing this up? The answer to that is very simple. That is a clear demonstration that nutrition can affect mental capability. It's very clear. People who come from depressed socioeconomic backgrounds or areas where they aren't getting proper nutrition are going to be affected by this. This changes the dynamic of the IQ test. You haven't accounted for all the variables, fringe. None of you have. It means that your IQ test isn't really measuring genetics. It's measuring cultural knowledge and socioeconomic success. Now, that correlates positively with Western ideas of success. The problem is that not all cultures have the Western idea of success. That's why you keep trying to sequester this to Asians, Africans, and Europeans. Because as long as we keep it in the arena of Western thought, you can keep using this thing. But we've already shown that your data sets, your variables, do not take into consideration important factors. That means you can't say this. That is the regression fallacy. I like the description it gave on skepticpedia.com. A golfer is suffering in his game. He puts on some useless metal bracelet and he starts to improve. He attributes his improvement to the bracelet instead of the possibility that he hadn't been feeling well and that his game was improving because he was starting to feel better. Or something as simple as getting one's confidence back because something goes right for you. The bracelet is not the cause, though. And that is the problem we're facing here. This is the fallacy that you people make constantly. Until you account for all the variables that can be involved in an IQ test, you cannot say that they demonstrate clearly genetic differences in intelligence. Saying it is scientifically irresponsible and dishonest. But of course, look who I'm talking to right now. It shouldn't surprise me that you people latch onto this shit without understanding it. Because it's basically the only thing you can do. I'm getting real sick of having the same conversation over and over again. You guys need to get some new tricks, or else just give it up.
Is simply pointing out that race can be on a continuum. While there are some semi-discrete breaks here and there, you can, for example, draw a continuum from China to Western Europe and create a link-by-link comparison, and each link, going from, central China to Manchuria to Mongolia to Stanland to the Kazakh to, Kurgan up to Russia, Belarus, Poland, Germany, Denmark, and then up to Sweden, right? You can make a link-by-link comparison and find that they're not very different from the prior one. And this is then used to say that, therefore, a Swede and a Japanese person, the two people at the extreme ends of the chain, are the same.
Yep, they can interbreed. Genetically, they're basically the same. 0.5%, that's all it's separating us, and most of that is locked up in personal variation. What the hell is so hard to understand about this, you dumb frickin' Swede?